my first month on this job, I spent most of my time traveling around the country, listening to educators such as yourselves. You asked me many tough questions about Apple's commitment to education, about the future of the Apple II and Macintosh platforms. In order to help clarify the Apple position on some of these issues, I've asked John Sculley, Chairman and CEO, and Dr. Bernard Gifford, Vice President of Education, to join me and address these concerns. Bernie, the first question's for you. With the success of the Apple II in education, why introduce the Macintosh into K-12 schools?
Well, the reality is that our customers are demanding an opportunity to use the Macintosh technology in K-12. All over the nation, we are seeing educators utilizing the Macintosh for new and exciting purposes. Shoreline School District is just outside of Seattle, Washington. It has purchased a large number of Macintoshes over the last several years. This hasn't meant that they don't find great uses for their Apple IIs, however. With careful planning, they find good reasons to use both product lines. At Meigs Middle School in Nashville, Tennessee, not only do they use Macintoshes and Apple IIs together, they also have connected all of their computers into a single network. About a month ago, I was in Louisville, and I visited a family literacy program, a program directed at teenage mothers and young mothers who were compelled to drop out of school as a result of early pregnancy. And in this program, they were using Macintosh technology not only to teach youngsters, but also to stimulate a love for learning in the lives of these mothers. So we're seeing a tremendous growth in the number of educational applications written for the Macintosh. Currently, there are close to 300 first-rate educational applications. We expect that that number will increase appreciably over the course of the next couple of years. So what we're really doing is we are responding to the needs of the educational community. We're providing freedom of choice. We will continue to provide great Apple II technology, but we will now be adding to that Apple II family a wonderful complement of Macintosh technology.
Perhaps John could speak a little bit about, in fact, our Macintosh product plans and how they relate to education.
Yes, Steve. Over the last few years, we put a lot of emphasis on our high-end Macintosh products, being able to push the technology envelope to greater performance, greater color capabilities. Now our product development efforts have shifted to the lower end of the Macintosh product line. This is particularly important, I think, for K through 12 because it means that we're going to be able to offer a range of Macintosh products that will have performance depending on what you're able to afford. We're going to be able to bring down the cost, for example, of color. We're going to be able to give higher speed capabilities for Macintosh, as well as many of the things that are available with our low entry-level Macintoshes now. One of the things I can tell our group today is that we will be introducing for the 1990-91 education year a range of low-end Macintosh products. And I think this is going to be a particularly exciting event for education.
But John, with all this emphasis on the Macintosh line, does this mean that Apple is phasing out its support for the Apple II?
No, the Apple II has been an extremely successful product. There's about 6 million in the install base today. We're going to continue to support and build Apple II products just as long as there is good demand out there for it. In fact, recently I set up an Apple II team that brings together all people who are involved in product development for the Apple II into one single organization so that they can really focus their energies and talent into being able to build new innovations on the Apple II platform, just as we were able to, over the last year or so, bring out the video overlay card, the SCSI interface for the Apple II and the System 5 software.
Bernie, Apple II and Macintosh are both great products. Which is really best for K-12 educators?
The fact of the matter is that schools today do not have a sufficient quantity of technology to meet all of their educational needs. And I think what educators are going to have to do over the course of the next couple of years, especially those who are loyal Apple users, is to find ways of repositioning and reallocating Apple II and Macintosh computers to maximize value added.
John, what about other forms of technical integration? Is this something that Apple is actively supporting?
The Apple II has been an extraordinarily successful product for education. And when we talk about a transition to Macintosh, we're talking about one that we've been planning for from a technology standpoint for a long time. So we share common peripherals. We made it possible to take all the data that's on an Apple II system, be able to move that data over to a Macintosh. So the transition from a technology standpoint makes a lot of sense. That's particularly important, I think, because schools do not have the luxury that business does to be able to write off their investment and obsolete it just because newer, more advanced technologies come along. One of the things that many people have asked us, is there a way that we could run Apple II software on a Macintosh? And we had been working on this issue for some time, and we are going to have a capability to emulate the Apple II that will work with one of our future Macintosh products. So I think that's going to be an extremely exciting option for those people who have a big installed base of Apple II, want to be able to continue to make those machines useful, and have the flexibility to be able to use either the Macintosh environment or the Apple II environment. And we believe that this emulation technology that has really no compromise Apple quality attached to it is going to be a very attractive choice, and will be available in the 1990-91 school year.
And I'd also like to point out that the major education software developers remain important Apple partners. Bernie, in wrapping this up, can you give us your perspective on where you see computing and education headed over the next 10 years?
At Apple, we understand change. We live in a changing environment, and we're part of an industry which is probably more sensitive to change and has developed more experience in dealing with change than any other sector in American life. There's another reason why I think Apple will make an absolutely wonderful partner for the K-12 community, and that's because we're fundamentally committed to education. We have the Vivarium project in Los Angeles, which is run by the very capable computer scientist Alan Kay, recently selected by Time magazine as one of the 25 most influential Americans. Alan Kay is utilizing the Vivarium project to come up with new ways of developing software, very powerful software, and to make this software available to youngsters. We also have invested in a number of activities with the two major teachers' unions. In conjunction with the American Federation of Teachers, we have put together a multimedia package which demonstrates the benefits as well as the challenges of school restructuring. In conjunction with the National Educational Association, we last year and this year sponsored a program called Thanks to Teachers, which we think is going to take us a long way towards elevating the respect for teachers in this country.
Steve, I was visiting Disney World recently in Orlando, Florida, and I was in the United States exhibit. And on the wall, I was really struck by a quote which said, "The most important natural resource in our country are the minds of our children." And that was Walt Disney. Disney approached it from the vantage point of entertainment. We approach it from the vantage point of technology. We believe that in this era of change that Bernie referred to, that we have got to prepare our young people to be able to deal with ideas and information in creative ways, or we're going to lose the quality of lifestyle that has become a part of the American dream. Education is deep in the roots of Apple. It's where we began. It's the most important long-term strategic objective that we have for our company. So Apple is focused on great technologies, but we're also equally interested in great relationships. I think the thing that I would like to leave with our educators today is a real commitment on the part of Apple and Apple people to want to build with you an education system through reforms, through technology, through relationships that will be equal to none in the world. We can only do this, I think, if there is an understanding of what's going to be required in the classroom, what's going to be required to get kids interested in learning, and how technology can help, not solve the problems, but how technology can help. And that's a commitment which we all have at Apple Computer.
John, Bernie, thanks very much for being with us today. I hope we provided you with information on the topics most important to you. In the next segment, representatives of the major education software publishing companies will tell you about their plans for Apple II and Macintosh software development. We think you'll find their excitement contagious. After that, in the final segment, we show you how two schools have successfully integrated both Apple IIs and Macintosh computers into their offices and classrooms. In this segment, fellow educators will give you some tips on planning and steps for integrating computers into your schools. Feel free to duplicate this tape so that you might share it with other educators in your district. We also hope that you will find the other materials in this package helpful. Most important, let us know what you think when you've watched this videotape and perused the materials. Our partnership with you is very important to Apple Computer. Please help us continue this partnership.
We developed software on the Apple II because teachers want it. At present, about 2/3 of the computers in classrooms today are Apples.
We've continued our development on the Apple II because we believe it's a viable platform, continues to be a viable platform for K through 12.
Any school that you go into around the country, you automatically see many Apple IIs in every lab or in every classroom. So Sunburst's support of the Apple II is important within our future plans.
Well, there are more than 1 million Apple IIs installed in schools around the country, and I think that the Apple II will continue to be the most cost-effective purchase for schools in the next couple of years.
We at Scholastic believe that the Apple II is going to live forever, or at least for the next 10 years, which is forever in the microcomputer industry, and we want to support the huge number of people out in the schools who use Apple IIs. If you haven't seen Slide Shop, Super Story Tree, or Hyperscreen, you are in for a surprise. We call these three products multimedia for the rest of us. Hyperscreen is an incredible product. It's a HyperCard-like product for the 2E that even includes video disk drivers. You've got hotspots on the screen, multiple buttons you can define, and there's a feature in there that allows profoundly handicapped kids to use the products that teachers create for them.
We're continuing to build software in our basic learning curriculum on the Apple II. And these are our comprehensive products in reading, mathematics, and language arts that are designed to match the Basel textbook.
We continue to support Apple II and have just recently brought out network versions of 7 of our titles. Math Blaster Plus, Word Attack. We're just releasing a brand new product called Team for the Apple II. It's a reading comprehension and vocabulary building program for at-risk students. The program consists of questions and over 1,600 reading comprehension passages and over 4,000 vocabulary building words and sentences and activities that are interconnected with the reading passages.
The latest chapter in the Carmen Sandiego saga is Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego. And this time Carmen and her gang, a new gang of villains, are going back through history, through 1,500 years of history, chasing crooks, criminals who have stolen objects out of the past. So in addition to the geography element, this time we also have the history element.
We're also developing for the Apple IIgs. We've got some really super software called USA Geograph. It is a unique piece of software in that it is a database. Of course, it uses the great color capability of the 2GS to allow students to wander through the living map.
Our Apple II development has been primarily focused around what we've done with AppleWorks GS, which is to emphasize graphics, sound, the ease of use capabilities that have been what we would like to think are Mac-like. These are the things that we believe will provide accessible productivity tools for the schools.
We think that the same forces that made the Apple II the school computer of the 1980s are going to make the Macintosh the school computer of the 1990s. From a user standpoint, both machines are inviting, open, flexible tools. And from a developer standpoint, and a publisher standpoint, both machines inspire you to create, to design products for those machines.
In the K-12 market, if you look at our educational catalog currently, we have about 41 educational titles listed. Out of those 41, I believe there are 31 right now that are Apple II and Apple IIgs. That's about the same as last year. There are about 15 Macintosh titles now, which is considerably more than last year. So the Macintosh side is slowly growing.
The schools said that they're going to be using Macintoshes. They didn't tell us that they're not going to use Apple IIs, but they did tell us they're going to use Macs. And so when the customers say that they want software for Macintosh, then we'll begin building software for Macintosh.
In 1984, I sat in front of a Mac for about 15 minutes, and after my first 15 minutes, I decided I had to develop educational software for the Mac.
Sunburst has formed a new division called Wings for Learning, and Wings for Learning will be focusing in two areas. One, where our emphasis will be on multiple media, using video and computers and print all integrated together. And then we'll also be looking at interdisciplinary curriculum rather than just having a math program or a science program or a writing program, integrating those in together around a theme.
We don't pre-announce products, unlike some of our competitors and Apple's competitors. But the one thing that I can tell you is that we have a huge team of programmers and designers working on Macintosh software.
Playroom is Broadband's first early learning product. It's for pre-K through second graders, and it's available on Macintosh and Apple II formats. Basically, the idea of the Playroom is the child has a playroom that he or she explores along with Pepper Mouse, who's the guide to all of the activities. Many of those are fun activities, but 6 of the activities hidden in the Playroom are serious instructional activities.
In the Mac area, we're looking at a lot in high school. The physics software will be a series of programs, and they'll be covering topics like mechanics and optics and waves and electricity. And the one that we have a demonstration of is in the area of gravity, and actually looking at the laws of gravity and how two bodies interact.
Math Blaster Mystery is a new program from Davidson that we have on the Apple II and have just released on the Mac. It is a math problem-solving program for grades 5 through 7, and it covers word problems and spatial relationships for other problem-solving activities.
Word Munchers is a Mac program that works on the Apple II platform, and it also works on the Mac platform. The format is that the student is given a word and is then asked to choose the words that have the same vowel sound. Of course, the student then drives the Word Muncher through the maze and eats the words that match vowel sounds.
We think the secondary schools are ready for very powerful curriculum tools on the Macintosh. And that's why we've created Point of View, the Scholastic History Processor, which is the first of a series of productivity tools that we are doing that have the look, feel, and power that we think only the Macintosh can provide.
We have designed an architecture called Extend, which we have licensed now to all developers in the Macintosh community, which essentially will allow file compatibility between and among machines in different environments. So today you can transfer files between and among an Apple II with AppleWorks and MacWrite 2, and this really does provide full data compatibility in the classroom. Apple's never wavered in its commitment to education. From the time that of Steve Jobs now to John Scully championing education, and to today, hiring a recognized educator into Apple, as Bernie Gifford is, have really given, I think, educators comfort, developers such as ourselves, comfort and confidence that Apple knows how to address that market.
Well, I think Apple has always been a great company to work with. They're obviously very innovative and have always had a significant contribution to make to education.
Apple works with the teachers, with building principals, with curriculum people, to develop a real sense of comfort with Apple products and with the software that independent publishers deliver on those products. It's that grassroots approach that I think educators really like.
Sunburst believes a lot in the classroom, what's happening in the classroom, and helping out the classroom teacher, and I think Apple has that same philosophy.
Often when I come over on the ferry, the moon is still up, and this morning Venus was actually out there, and it's very bright. I live on Vashon Island, which is a small island in Puget Sound. I commute 4 hours a day to work, largely because I love where I'm living, and the job I'm in right now is incredibly exciting and powerful. My name is Jake Schlumpf. I'm the Director of Instructional Technology and Enhancements at the Shoreline School District in Seattle, Washington. My mission at Shoreline is essentially the same mission our school district has. We are interested first and foremost in enhancing and improving the instructional opportunities for all children. Our plan is to look down the road for what we want and to produce it right now.
We have an infrastructure in place that's going to let us not be limited.
The superintendent of the Shoreline School District is Dr. Roy Duncan. Roy is an incredible leader.
One of the big reasons for the success of the Shoreline School District is that we have been very active in promoting partnerships. We believe the job of education is too large to leave totally the educators. When I look at Apple, I don't just look at hardware and software, but I look at people, and they're the kind of people that will get in and work with us to help us get the job done. Tomorrow's learner is going to be much different. The students are not going to be a passive receptacle in which you pour knowledge. They're going to be actively engaged in what's taking place in the process. We feel that the Macintosh and the Macintosh technology is one that is really reached out into the future. One of the best investments the Shoreline District has ever made has been in acquiring the Apple computer.
In our elementary programs, we're using Macintoshes and Apple IIGSs essentially side by side.
Remember, you're going to write about what's in your picture, so you need lots of...
We use the GSs as an opening opportunity for students to get to use the computer and use word processing programs, databases, spreadsheets, right in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade.
My name is Rebecca Booker.
Once the students have worked in the GS for a while, the Macintosh is then used to produce multimedia reports. Oftentimes, we find them jumping from one machine to the other so that they can get their work done. We have a number of Apple products throughout the school. We are presently using 2 labs. One is a lab for word processing, for working with databases and so on. Large groups of kids, up to 30, working together to enhance their skills or to develop new things.
Okay, what you can do is let go and do it over. It's a little bit small.
Our knowledge stations are multimedia workstations for kids to work right in the library with the books as well as with all other forms of media to develop new information. Once the kids have worked together cooperatively to develop new information, we have them produce new HyperCard stacks using their Macintosh and hand that information in. So we may have 5th, 4th grade classes doing large products on our Apple computers and providing video and handing those things into their teachers.
Since we've worked with Apple and looking at the vision for the future, we feel that if we're able to put 2 GSs and our Macs in each of the buildings, it was going to be a cost-effective and an economic way to go.
Why don't we blue sky this? We've got a lot of capability in this classroom right now, and what we've talked about is fantastic stuff. Delivering 2 or 3 images concurrently down 3 fibers, and we can produce in the middle of the room a holographic cell. Kids can reach in and grab a mitochondria. That sort of stuff is the stuff we can reach for as we go on. My guess right now is we're looking at some powerful Macintoshes to do it. We're looking for some color products, but we're looking for some kids to work developing these things. Maybe we can have them send images from one room to another, and then we can use the Macintoshes to route that power. Here at Shoreline, we have a vision. And our vision, often people call a dream. Well, there are 2 types of dreamers. There are dreamers that never wake up, and there are dreamers who are never so awake as when they dream. We think that Apple Computer is that sort of dreamer, and we like to have them working with us in our dream in a partnership.
morning, students. Official Meigs Middle School time is 7:41. Students, today we have film crew in the building from Apple Computer to capture your wonderful personality. Let's show some of that Meigs magic today. The film crew will be everywhere you are today. So let's be at our best. Have a good day. I think that probably nationally a lot of folks believe that Tennessee is a little backward and kind of sweet and full of magnolias, which is nice, romantic, but probably not very accurate. We are an interesting collection of people. We draw students from all over the county. The students are selected by computer, and therefore the student body represents all of the parts of an urban school system.
We're going to be experimenting with importing graphics from the GS to the Mac and from the Mac to the GS.
A teacher is somebody who understands the future. And Mike Smith is our computer teacher here. He is quite a bundle of energy.
Also, people ask me where I teach, and a lot of times I'll say I teach at Camelot. I believe that as far as the computer curriculum, it is the best computer curriculum in all of the South, one of the top computer programs in the nation. I decided to buy into the Apple family of computers. There's more educational software written for the Apple II family than all the other computers put together. Where on the Macintosh, I can teach them just one platform, and all of the programs work exactly the same way. The Macintosh and the GS work so well together. I mean, to me, it's almost like the perfect marriage.
My name is Jody Farmer, and I'm in the 5th grade at Meigs Bank School. When I grow up, I want to be a comedian who works in the biggest nightclub in the world.
All right, Jamie, what you've done is put your article for the newspaper on the computer, on the 2GS here, and now we want to save it to the network, so why don't you go ahead and save it, sweetheart?
The GS has the ability to work on the same network with the Macs. Using the network here at Meigs, we create the school newspaper. We're able to bring it all together with a desktop publishing program called Quark Express, and we print out our school newspaper on our LaserWriter printers.
For me, getting into computers and teaching myself the concepts that are involved in those were not real difficult because I was so motivated by it. And I knew that if I was going to be motivated by it, the kids would love it.
The library is using a program called Mac School Library. The kids actually do card catalog search on the Macintoshes. Every teacher in the school uses the computer, either the Mac or the GS, to keep their grades on. He is no longer staying up late at night, the night before report cards go out, and we're no longer losing a day of instructional time.
Talk about. The first one is the paramecium.
One of the neat things about the Apple II family that we have here is that we're still using those same 2 E's that we started with 6 and 8 years ago. The kids use the fire out of them, and it's like we can't wear them out.
We're really going to integrate the use of the computer into the child's learning world. That there were going to be those times when a computer would need to be available to a student other than just classroom times. Jason Arnold is a remarkable young man, a remarkable musician. We have a take-home program. When a student has a special need, working on a special project, he can in fact check the computer out much like a library book.
And it plays the note?
My mother doesn't know much about computers, but she's learned more from my taking them home. A lot of kids at Meigs take home the computers to write letters to friends, letters to the editor, type homework assignments, do music programs like this. I'd tell kids who have never used a computer before that using a Mac really is fun, and that you'd find out what the magic is. You'd catch the magic after you use the computer for the first time.
For a long time in education, we thought that a child had to feel good to produce. I suggest to you that when a child is given an avenue to produce, then he begins to feel good about himself. Catch the magic is a phrase at Meigs that is a feeling of I can do, I am going to produce. The great thing about the apples is that you just can't help but produce. Catching the magic and having an apple are all about the same thing around here. The winning poems will appear in the school newspaper next month.
Now let's have a great weekend, and once again, students, that was an outstanding job for the first place. See y'all Monday.